The echoes of forgotten screams still cling to the air, a perpetual chill that settles deep within the bone, a reminder that some doors, once opened, can never truly be shut. Most people who stumble upon these tales convince themselves they are mere folklore, the fevered imaginings of minds too weak to confront the mundane. But the ones who have truly listened, the ones who have felt the icy breath of what lies beyond the veil, they never sleep the same way again. And tonight, neither will you. The shadows you see in the periphery, the whispers that dance just beyond the edge of hearing, they are not your imagination playing tricks. They are invitations. Invitations to a realm where logic withers and terror takes root. A place where the most profound mysteries are not meant to be solved, but endured. We stand on the precipice of the unknown, a gulf so vast and so ancient it predates our understanding of existence itself. And what we are about to uncover is not a story, but a testament to the fragility of reality, a brittle facade that can shatter with a single misplaced thought. The universe is a vast, indifferent tapestry, but woven into its darkest threads are patterns of suffering and dread that pulse with a life of their own, waiting to ensconce the unwary. This is not an entertainment, it is a confrontation. The chilling truth about the unexplainable phenomena that plague our world is that they are not anomalies, but threads woven into the very fabric of our existence, yet deliberately obscured from our conscious perception. We are conditioned to dismiss, to rationalize, to find solace in the predictable, but the darkness that lurks beyond our perceived reality thrives on this ignorance. It feeds on our denial. Consider the unsettling regularity with which certain places become focal points for intense paranormal activity, as if a gravitational pull exists not for matter, but for misery. These aren't random occurrences. They are psychic scars on the landscape, places where the veil between worlds has been worn thin by the sheer weight of human anguish. Imagine a house where generations have experienced the same inexplicable dread, the same spectral manifestations, not because of a single tragic event, but because the very air within its walls has absorbed and amplified the fear, becoming a sentient entity of sorrow. This collected agony creates a resonance, a siren call to whatever entities dwell in the liminal spaces, drawing them like moths to a flame of despair that never truly extinguishes. The whispers begin subtly, a mere rustle of unseen garments, a fleeting scent of decay that vanishes upon inspection, but these are just the preliminary stirrings of a consciousness that has been dormant, awakened by the sustained broadcast of human vulnerability. The sheer inertia of belief, the collective will of humanity to maintain a stable, predictable universe, acts as a powerful ward against the encroaching chaos. However, this very inertia can also create a form of psychic inertia, a stagnant pool of fear and unanswered questions that draws unwelcome attention. Think of ancient burial grounds, places saturated with the residual energy of those who have passed, their final moments of life and death imprinted onto the very soil. These are not simply inert repositories of the dead. They are energetic nodes, points of intersection where the echo of mortality is amplified. When human emotion, particularly fear or profound grief, is directed towards these locations, it creates a feedback loop, a psychic vortex that can manifest phenomena beyond our comprehension. It's like striking a tuning fork against a perfectly still pond. The ripples spread, distorting the surface, revealing the unseen depths below. The stories we hear of haunted woods or cursed crossroads are often the result of such accumulated psychic residue, amplified by the constant unconscious fears of generations, creating a tangible presence that defies rational explanation. These are not ghosts in the traditional sense, but rather the persistent hum of collective trauma, a dark melody that resonates through time. The persistent specter of doubt, a shield forged by our rational minds, is often the only thing that prevents us from recognizing the profound, undeniable presence of the otherworldly. We are taught from a young age to seek logical explanations, to dissect and categorize, a necessary skill for navigating the physical world, but a crippling one when confronted by phenomena that operate on entirely different principles. The universe, in its unfathomable vastness, does not adhere to the tidy laws we have devised. Consider the phenomenon of déjà vu, that unsettling flicker of recognition for an event that has never occurred. Some dismiss it as a neurological glitch, but others feel a deeper resonance, a fleeting glimpse into a past or future life, a temporal echo that hints at a reality far more fluid and interconnected than we perceive. This fluidity is precisely what the entities of the beyond exploit. They are not bound by linear time or physical constraints, and our attempts to box them into our limited understanding only makes them more elusive, more terrifying when they finally break through the thin ice of our skepticism. These brief, inexplicable moments are like cracks in a mirror, offering distorted glimpses of a world that exists just beyond our own, a world of shadow and whispers. The narrative we construct about reality is a carefully crafted tapestry, woven with threads of logic and empirical evidence. Yet beneath this comforting illusion of control, there lies a churning sea of the unknown, populated by entities that exist outside our conventional understanding. These beings, if they can even be called that, are not necessarily malevolent in the human sense, but their very existence and their interaction with our plane of reality can be profoundly disturbing, often resulting in the erosion of sanity itself. Think of the deep sea, a realm of crushing pressure and perpetual darkness, where creatures evolved in ways so alien they seem like figments of a nightmare. The paranormal is akin to this abyss. Its denizens operate by rules we cannot fathom, their motives inscrutable, their forms shifting and ephemeral. When we encounter them, it is not a meeting of minds, but a collision of fundamentally different modes of being, leaving us bewildered and terrified. The sensation is akin to finding a perfectly formed crystal structure, impossible in its complexity, growing within the decaying husk of a forgotten corpse, a testament to life's ability to bloom in the most horrifying of circumstances. The historical records, the hushed accounts passed down through generations, are not merely stories of the past. They are fragments of a persistent, recurring consciousness that seeps into our present. When we delve into the annals of unexplained disappearances, of inexplicable outbreaks of madness, or of villages that were found utterly abandoned, we are not just reading historical curiosities. We are examining the evidence of an ongoing cosmic struggle, a silent war waged on the fringes of our perception. These events are like breadcrumbs leading not to a forgotten treasure, but to a hidden abyss. The chilling uniformity of certain phenomena across disparate cultures and time periods suggests a common source, a universal language of dread that transcends human invention. This is not a coincidence, it is a pattern. The creaking of a door in an empty house, the disembodied voice that speaks your name when no one is near, the oppressive feeling of being watched. These are not isolated incidents. They are the recurring motifs in a grand, terrifying symphony composed by something ancient and vast. The profound, unsettling nature of the unknown lies not just in its mystery, but in its capacity to expose the fundamental flaws in our own perception of reality. We are creatures of habit, of pattern recognition, and when confronted with something that defies these very capabilities, our minds recoil. Consider the concept of the uncanny valley, that feeling of unease evoked by something that is almost but not quite human. This is a primal warning system, a subconscious recognition of something that is fundamentally wrong. The entities we whisper about in the dark tap into this very feeling, but on a much grander, more existential scale. They are the ultimate uncanny valley, the beings that are almost but not quite comprehensible, their alienness, a stark mirror, reflecting the limitations of our own intellect. The dried blood on an ancient altar, the shattered fragments of a once sacred mirror, the persistent presence of crows circling overhead. These are not mere symbols, they are manifestations of a reality where such boundaries do not exist, where the organic and the inorganic, the living and the dead, merge into a grotesque, incomprehensible whole that assaults our very sense of self. The stories we tell ourselves about the world are an elaborate defense mechanism, a way to keep the encroaching chaos at bay. But what happens when the very stories we tell are the things that draw the darkness closer? The persistent whispers of certain legends, the tales of cursed objects or haunted locales, are not merely cautionary fables. They can act as beacons, drawing the attention of entities that feed on the fear and fascination they generate. Imagine a moth drawn not just to light, but to the very idea of flame, a concept that promises both warmth and oblivion. This is the power of narrative in the occult. The story itself becomes a conduit, the detailed retelling of a summoning ritual, the vivid description of a pact made in shadow. These can inadvertently open pathways, allowing the energies described to bleed into our own reality. It is as if the universe is listening, and our words imbued with sufficient emotional charge can shape the unseen forces around us, creating a reality that is far more terrifying than we could ever have consciously intended, a truth that chills us to the very core. The cumulative weight of human suffering, concentrated in specific locations or within certain objects, can create a psychic imprint, a residual energy that attracts and amplifies paranormal activity. This isn't about ghosts in the traditional sense, but rather the lingering resonance of intense emotion. Think of a battlefield, saturated with the final moments of thousands of lives, the terror, the agony, the rage. This intense emotional energy doesn't simply dissipate, it saturates the environment, creating a potent atmosphere that can manifest in disturbing ways. Similarly, objects that have been the focus of great tragedy or intense emotional turmoil can become imbued with this energy, acting as conduits for phenomena that defy explanation. A child's antique doll, found in the attic of a house where unspeakable acts occurred, might not be possessed by a spirit, but rather vibrate with the echoes of the sorrow and fear it witnessed, its porcelain eyes reflecting a darkness far older than its creation. These places and objects become magnets for the inexplicable, drawing in energies that warp and distort the fabric of reality. The subtle, insidious nature of paranormal influence is often its most terrifying aspect. It doesn't always manifest as a terrifying apparition or a violent poltergeist. More often it begins with a creeping sense of unease, a gradual shift in perception, a subtle erosion of one's mental faculties. This is the shadow play of entities that exist in the liminal spaces, entities that prefer to manipulate from the periphery. They might whisper suggestions that fester into paranoia, distort memories to sow doubt and discord, or induce a profound sense of isolation even when surrounded by others. It's like a slow-acting poison, the effects not immediately obvious, but leading inevitably to a catastrophic breakdown. The broken crosses in forgotten chapels, the cold ashes found in hearths that haven't seen fire in centuries. These are symbols of spiritual abandonment, places where such insidious influences can take root and flourish, feeding on the decay of faith and the silence of the divine, leaving only an oppressive, tangible dread. The persistence of certain folklore, the uncanny similarities in ghost stories across cultures, suggests not a shared human imagination, but a shared experience of something fundamentally other. These aren't just tales spun from whole cloth. They are transmissions from a reality that intersects with our own, often in the most unwelcome ways. The figure of the spectral child, the disembodied cry for help, the chilling laughter echoing from an empty room. These are recurring motifs because they represent the raw, unfiltered expression of forces that do not conform to our understanding of life and death. They are the shadows cast by an unseen sun, the tangible evidence of a hidden world pressing against our own. Imagine the wind carrying secrets from a place that does not exist on any map, whispering warnings to those who are attuned to its unnatural frequency, a frequency that resonates with the deepest fears buried within the human psyche, a primal terror that predates civilization itself. The very act of observing and documenting the paranormal, while often driven by a desire for knowledge, can inadvertently empower the phenomena themselves. The energy of focused attention, especially when laced with fear and curiosity, acts as a potent amplifier. It is akin to shining a spotlight onto a dark corner of a room. The objects within that corner, previously unseen, are now illuminated, their presence undeniable. When we dedicate ourselves to the study of the unexplained, we are in a sense feeding it. The more we seek to understand, the more we draw its attention. This can lead to a dangerous escalation, where mere curiosities transform into terrifying encounters. The crows that gather when a mystery deepens, the creaking of unseen doors that accompany a revelation. These are not coincidences. They are the universe responding to our intrusion, a dark acknowledgement of our presence in realms we were never meant to explore, a truth that gnaws at the edges of our sanity. The persistent allure of the forbidden, the morbid curiosity that compels us to peek behind the curtain, is a double-edged sword. It is the very engine that drives our investigation into the unknown, but it also represents our greatest vulnerability. This inherent human trait is precisely what entities from the beyond exploit, drawing us in with promises of revelation, only to ensnare us in webs of fear and despair. The cracked mirrors that seem to reflect more than just our image, the dried bloodstains that refuse to be scrubbed away, the whispers that promise forbidden knowledge. These are the enticements offered by the darkness. They play on our deepest desires for understanding, our yearning to grasp the ungraspable, leading us down paths from which there is no return. The transformation from curious observer to terrified participant is often a gradual one, masked by the thrill of discovery, until the moment of horrifying realization dawns, leaving us trapped in the very abyss we sought to comprehend. The stories of people who have claimed to witness or experience something truly terrifying, something that shattered their perception of reality, often share a common thread. They are dismissed. Their accounts are relegated to the realm of delusion, hallucination, or outright fabrication. This societal tendency to invalidate the extraordinary is a powerful tool for the forces that operate beyond our understanding. By silencing the witnesses, by discrediting their experiences, humanity collectively reinforces the illusion of a safe, predictable world. But the truth, like a persistent stain, cannot be entirely erased. These disregarded narratives are the cracks in the facade, the evidence of something far more profound and disturbing at play, a truth that whispers from the periphery, waiting for someone to truly listen, to truly believe the impossible horror that has been witnessed, a horror that echoes in the silence and in the darkest corners of our minds. The chilling paradox of the paranormal is that its existence is often most strongly evidenced by its absence of evidence, or rather, by evidence that defies conventional logic. We are trained to seek concrete proof, tangible artifacts, repeatable experiments. But the entities that inhabit the unseen realms do not operate by these rules. Their manifestations are fleeting, their influence subtle, their very nature resistant to the sterile analysis of science. This makes them incredibly difficult to capture, to quantify, to truly prove. Yet, the persistent, widespread nature of these experiences, the countless testimonies from individuals from all walks of life, suggests something undeniable. It is like trying to catch smoke in a sieve. You can observe its presence, feel its chill, but you can never truly hold on to it. A truth that gnaws at the rational mind, leaving behind only a residue of deep, primal fear. The sheer weight of collective human fear, amplified over centuries and concentrated in certain locations, can create a tangible atmospheric pressure, a palpable sense of dread that permeates the environment. These are not merely places with a bad vibe, they are sites where the psychic residue of intense suffering has reached a critical mass, allowing it to manifest in ways that defy natural explanation. Imagine a storm gathering not in the atmosphere, but in the collective consciousness, its energy coalescing into a vortex of terror. The historical accounts of villages consumed by inexplicable madness, of forests where travelers vanish without a trace, speak to this phenomenon. It is as if the land itself remembers, and its memory is a tapestry woven with threads of anguish and despair, a grim testament to the enduring power of human misery, a power that can be harnessed by the unseen. The narratives we consume, from folklore to modern horror, act as a form of psychic inoculation, preparing us for the possibility of the supernatural, while simultaneously distancing us from its reality. We are desensitized by fiction, lulled into a false sense of security by the knowledge that these are just stories. But the entities that exist in the in-between spaces understand the power of these narratives. They can use our own cultural mythos as a blueprint, a set of instructions for manifesting in ways we are already primed to recognize, albeit with a terrifyingly real twist. The shadows lengthen not just because the sun sets, but because the very tales we tell about darkness invite it closer, a chilling self-fulfilling prophecy that blurs the lines between imagination and undeniable, terrifying reality, a truth that can leave one perpetually on edge, scanning the darkness for what is no longer fictional. The persistent, almost ritualistic recurrence of certain paranormal patterns across disparate cultures and geographical locations is a profound indicator that we are dealing with something far more ancient and universal than mere human psychology. These aren't isolated incidents of delusion. They are echoes of a shared encounter with forces that transcend our limited understanding. The archetypal figures of the spectral entity, the haunted object, the cursed location, these are not inventions of the human mind, but rather representations of consistent intrusions from an external reality. It is as if the fabric of our existence has thin spots, tiers that allow glimpses into a realm where different rules apply, and where entities with inscrutable motives can breach the barrier, leaving behind a trail of unexplained phenomena and profound dread, a dread that seeps into the very soul. The emotional resonance of fear itself acts as a powerful attractant for entities that exist in the liminal spaces. These beings, often described as feeding on negative emotions, are drawn to concentrated reservoirs of human dread, anxiety, and despair. It is akin to a predator sensing the distress of its prey. Places and situations that are inherently charged with fear, sites of tragedy, moments of intense personal crisis, even deeply unsettling narratives, become focal points for paranormal activity. The dried blood on a forgotten stone, the creaking of a door in an abandoned asylum, the persistent, unsettling stillness before a terrifying event. These are the environmental cues that signal an abundance of the emotional sustenance these entities crave. A grim banquet laid out by the unsuspecting human psyche, a truth that haunts the edges of our awareness. The pervasive sense of being watched, even in absolute solitude, is a primal human experience that often signals the presence of an observer from beyond our conventional reality. This feeling is not merely a psychological construct. It is a subtle yet powerful energetic awareness of an unseen presence. It is the universe whispering that you are not alone, but that your companions are not of this world, and their gaze carries a weight that chills the very soul. This unsettling sensation is a direct manifestation of an external consciousness attempting to interact, to assert its presence in a way that bypasses our rational faculties and targets our deepest, most vulnerable instincts. The shadows in the corners of your vision, the rustle of unseen movement, The inexplicable cold spots. These are the tangible indicators of an alien intelligence focusing its attention upon you. A terrifying intimacy that breeds a profound and lasting unease. The very nature of consciousness, its mysterious origins, and its ability to seemingly transcend physical limitations, opens a terrifying door to the possibility of entities that exist not as physical beings, but as pure consciousness or energy. These entities, unburdened by the constraints of the material world, can interact with our reality in ways that are both subtle and profound. They might influence our thoughts, manipulate our emotions, or even subtly alter our perception of reality itself. The historical accounts of possession, of unexplained phenomena linked to specific individuals, can be seen through this lens. It is not necessarily a corporeal invasion, but a merging or overlaying of consciousness, a terrifying communion where the boundaries of self begin to dissolve, leaving one vulnerable to forces they cannot comprehend, a chilling echo in the silence of the mind. The concept of thin places or veil sites in folklore and occult traditions speaks to the existence of geographical locations where the barrier between our reality and other dimensions is naturally weaker. These are places imbued with a unique energetic resonance, often marked by ancient megaliths, natural geological anomalies, or sites of significant historical or spiritual events. It is believed that at these junctures, the veil between worlds is so thin that entities from the other side can more easily manifest or influence our reality. The persistent legends surrounding such places, the tales of strange lights, disembodied voices, and unsettling encounters, are not mere superstitions. They are the accumulated testimonies of individuals who have inadvertently stumbled upon these nexus points, experiencing firsthand the profound and often terrifying implications of such proximity to the unknown. A proximity that leaves an indelible mark. The persistent appeal of the forbidden, the human compulsion to explore the unknown and the dangerous, is a narrative thread that runs through countless horror stories and occult legends. This morbid curiosity acts as a powerful lure, drawing individuals towards experiences that can shatter their sanity and expose them to terrifying realities. The whispers of ancient rituals, the allure of hidden knowledge, the temptation to glimpse beyond the veil, these are all manifestations of this fundamental human drive. It is a dangerous dance, where the pursuit of understanding leads directly into the jaws of terror, and the knowledge gained is often at the cost of one's peace of mind, or even one's very soul, a profound truth that resonates in the darkest corners of the human psyche, a truth that we are irresistibly drawn to explore. The cyclical nature of certain paranormal phenomena, the way they seem to ebb and flow, appearing and disappearing with an almost rhythmic precision, suggests an intelligence at play, a deliberate manipulation of our reality. These are not random occurrences, but calculated manifestations designed to instill fear, confusion, or to achieve some inscrutable purpose. The dried blood that reappears on a wall, the cold spots that move with intention, the voices that speak only at certain times, these point to a methodical, almost deliberate orchestration of events. It is as if unseen hands are turning the dials of reality, adjusting the intensity of the horror for maximum psychological impact, a terrifying testament to a power that operates on principles beyond our comprehension, a power that toys with us like a cat with a mouse. The profound, unsettling nature of encountering something that fundamentally defies explanation, something that shatters our carefully constructed worldview, can lead to a state of profound existential dread. This is not just fear of a ghost or a monster, but a deep-seated terror stemming from the realization that the reality we perceive is far more fragile and complex than we ever imagined. The broken crosses and cold ashes of forgotten beliefs serve as stark reminders of the collapse of certainty, leaving individuals adrift in a sea of unanswered questions and pervasive unease. This existential crisis is often the ultimate goal of certain paranormal interactions, a deliberate destabilization of the human psyche, leaving one vulnerable and receptive to forces that thrive on such profound disorientation and fear. The echoes of past traumas, imprinted onto the very fabric of space-time, can create residual energies that manifest as paranormal activity. These are not spirits of the deceased, but rather energetic replays of intense emotional events. Imagine a film reel, damaged and flickering, replaying a scene of horror over and over. The paranormal is akin to this, but instead of images, it is the raw emotional energy of a past moment that is being broadcast into the present. Places that have witnessed great suffering, or objects that were present during moments of intense emotional upheaval, can become conduits for these replays. The cold ashes in a fireplace where a family perished, the creaking of floorboards that echo the frantic footsteps of a past terror. These are the tangible manifestations of history's enduring pain, a pain that refuses to fade, a pain that can bleed into our present reality. The persistent, almost universal fear of the dark and the unknown stems from a deep-seated, evolutionary recognition of potential danger lurking beyond the veil of light and comprehension. This primal fear is not simply a learned behavior. It is an instinctual alarm system, honed over millennia to protect us from unseen threats. When this instinct is triggered by paranormal phenomena, it taps into our most basic survival mechanisms, creating a visceral, overwhelming sense of terror. The shadows that seem to move, the whispers that seem to hold malice, the unsettling feeling of being hunted by something invisible. These are the triggers that activate our deepest fears, reminding us of our vulnerability in a universe that holds far more dangers than we can readily perceive or understand. Dangers that have always been there, waiting in the dark. The historical accounts of mass hysteria, of unexplained phenomena that sweep through communities, often share a common element: the amplification of existing fears and anxieties. When a population is already stressed, fearful, or susceptible to suggestion, a single spark can ignite a conflagration of paranormal belief and perceived activity. It's as if the collective consciousness becomes a fertile ground, ready to nurture whatever seeds of fear are sown, whether by natural events or by external unseen influences. The dried blood that seems to weep from walls during times of societal unrest, the crows that gather ominously before a tragic event. These are often interpreted as supernatural signs, but they may simply be manifestations of a collective psyche operating at a heightened state of fear, a state that invites and amplifies the inexplicable, a truth that is as disturbing as it is profound, for it suggests our own minds can be the architects of our terror. The subtle manipulation of perception, the way our senses can be tricked or altered by unseen forces, is a cornerstone of paranormal encounters. Entities from the beyond do not always need to manifest physically. They can influence our minds, twisting our perceptions to create experiences of terror. This might involve implanting false memories, inducing hallucinations, or creating a profound sense of unease and paranoia. The cracked mirror that seems to show a distorted reflection, the whisper that sounds like a loved one's voice but carries a malevolent intent, the persistent feeling of being followed. These are all examples of how our own senses can be turned against us, becoming the conduits for a terrifying unseen reality. This insidious form of interaction leaves us questioning our own sanity, isolated in our fear and vulnerable to further influence, a chilling testament to the power of the mind. The persistent presence of archetypal figures in folklore and mythology, the shadow creature, the vengeful spirit, the being that lurks in the darkness, suggests that these are not mere flights of fancy, but rather recurring encounters with fundamental forces that exist beyond our normal perception. These archetypes are the human mind's attempt to categorize and understand phenomena that defy rational explanation. translating the ineffable terror of the unknown into recognizable forms. The dried blood on ancient relics, the creaking doors in abandoned places, the unnerving call of the crow. These elements are recurring motifs because they are intrinsically linked to the experiences that give rise to these archetypal fears. They are the sensory anchors for a terror that is both deeply personal and universally understood. A terror that has haunted humanity since the dawn of consciousness. A terror that continues to whisper in the dark. The cyclical nature of dread. The way certain places or objects seem to perpetually emanate a sense of unease, speaks to a deeper energetic resonance, a psychic imprint left by intense experiences. This residual energy does not simply dissipate, it lingers, affecting those who come into contact with it, creating a palpable atmosphere of fear and oppression. Think of a wound that never truly heals, constantly throbbing with phantom pain. These locations are like that wound on the world's psychic skin. The cold ashes that lie undisturbed for decades. The dried bloodstains that defy all cleaning attempts. The shadows that seem to cling to certain corners with a life of their own. These are the physical manifestations of that enduring dread. A chilling testament to the fact that some sorrows are too profound to simply fade away, and their echoes can ripple through time, affecting the present in ways we may never fully comprehend, only feel. The persistent unsettling feeling of being observed, even when completely alone, is a primal response that is echoed through human history. This sensation is often attributed to an awareness of something lurking just beyond the threshold of our perception, an intelligence that exists outside the normal spectrum of sensory input. It's the universe's way of whispering that you are not as isolated as you believe, but that your unseen companions are not of this world, and their gaze carries a weight that chills the very soul. The shadows that deepen unnaturally, the sudden chill that permeates a room, the sense of a presence just at the edge of your vision, these are not mere figments of an overactive imagination. They are the subtle yet undeniable signs that something is aware of you, something ancient and alien, and its attention is fixed upon your vulnerability, a truth that can leave one perpetually on edge, scanning the darkness for what is no longer fictional but terrifyingly real. The power of narrative, particularly in the realm of the occult, is not merely in its ability to entertain or to warn, but in its capacity to actively shape reality. When stories of dark rituals, forbidden pacts, or malevolent entities are told with sufficient conviction and emotional charge, they can inadvertently open channels for these forces to manifest. The act of telling the story becomes a form of invocation, a psychic broadcast that draws the attention of whatever lurks in the unseen realms. The dried blood on an ancient tome, the creaking of a door that seems to open on its own, the persistent whispers that seem to carry forbidden knowledge. These are not just elements of a story. They can become the very mechanisms by which the forbidden enters our world, a terrifying testament to the power of belief and the potent magic inherent in narrative itself, a magic that can shatter the boundaries of what we consider real and leave us lost in the shadows. The profound, unsettling nature of the uncanny valley phenomenon, where something that is almost, but not quite, human evokes a deep sense of dread, is a powerful indicator of how finely tuned our perception of reality is. When this finely tuned system is confronted by entities that exist in the liminal spaces, beings that blur the lines between the animate and inanimate, the familiar and the alien, our fundamental sense of order is threatened. The cracked mirrors that reflect distorted truths, the cold ashes that symbolize decay and loss, the persistent shadow play at the edge of vision, these are all manifestations that push us beyond the comfort of the known, forcing us to confront the terrifying possibility that what we perceive as real is merely a thin veneer over a much stranger and far more dangerous existence, a truth that can lead to an overwhelming sense of existential dread. The cyclical nature of fear, the way it can be passed down through generations, clinging to families or locations like a persistent curse, suggests an energetic transmission that transcends simple psychological inheritance. This inherited dread is not just learned behavior, it is a form of psychic residue, an energetic imprint left by intense trauma or malevolent influence that continues to affect descendants. The dried blood on an ancestral artifact, the creaking of a house that belonged to a haunted lineage, the recurring nightmares that plague a family line. These are the tangible manifestations of this enduring fear. It is as if the sorrows of the past refuse to die, instead finding new vessels through which to express their lingering torment, a chilling testament to the fact that some wounds run so deep, they scar the very lineage of existence, a truth that binds us to the darkness of those who came before. The profound silence that often follows a terrifying encounter, the unnerving stillness that descends after the screams have faded, is more than just an absence of sound. It is a heavy, charged silence, pregnant with the weight of what has just occurred. It is the universe holding its breath, acknowledging the breach that has taken place. This silence is not empty. It is filled with the echoes of terror, the lingering presence of what was revealed, the cold ashes left behind by a spectral fire, the creaking door that now swings silently, the shadows that seem to absorb all light. These are the remnants of a moment where the veil was torn, and the true nature of reality was glimpsed. This profound silence serves as a constant, chilling reminder that the terror was real, and its imprint lingers, a testament to the thinness of the barrier between our world and the abyss, a truth that can leave one forever listening for what is not there, yet undoubtedly is. The persistent, almost hypnotic allure of the forbidden, the human fascination with the dark and the unknown, is a dangerous siren song that has lured countless souls into the abyss. This innate curiosity, this yearning to push boundaries, is precisely what makes us vulnerable to forces that operate outside the realm of the ordinary. The whispers of ancient cults, the allure of forbidden knowledge, the temptation to glimpse beyond the veil, these are the hooks that draw us in. The dried blood on forgotten altars, the cracked mirrors that reflect disturbing truths, the crows that circle with knowing eyes. These are not mere symbolic elements. They are often the very instruments through which the forbidden makes its presence known, a chilling testament to the fact that our deepest desires can become the pathways to our ultimate undoing, a truth that resonates in the marrow of our bones. The cyclical nature of hauntings, the way certain locations seem to attract and perpetuate paranormal activity, suggests a form of energetic magnetization, where intense emotional residue creates a potent psychic field. This field does not dissipate over time. Instead, it can grow, attracting and amplifying further phenomena. Imagine a black hole in the psychic landscape, pulling in fear and anguish, radiating an oppressive energy. The dried blood that seems to seep anew, the creaking of doors that never cease, the shadows that dance with a life of their own. These are the outward signs of this potent, self-perpetuating cycle of dread. It is as if the very air in these places becomes saturated with the echoes of past torment, creating an environment where the boundaries of reality become blurred, and the impossible becomes terrifyingly palpable, a truth that chills the very essence of one's being. The profound, unsettling nature of encountering something that fundamentally defies our understanding of reality, something that shatters our established order, can lead to a state of deep existential dread. This is not merely fear of a singular event, but a pervasive terror, born from the realization that the perceived stability of our existence is a fragile illusion. The broken crosses and cold ashes scattered across forgotten landscapes serve as stark, silent testaments to the collapse of certainty. They are monuments to the moments when the veneer of the mundane was ripped away, revealing the terrifying chaos that churns beneath. In these moments, individuals are left adrift in a sea of unanswered questions, their sense of self eroded, their connection to a secure reality severed, making them acutely vulnerable to the whispers of the unknown, a state of being that is itself a form of profound horror, a horror that lingers long after the initial shock has subsided. The transmission of psychic trauma, the way intense emotional experiences can leave an indelible, energetic imprint that affects not just the individual, but also subsequent generations or even the environment itself, is a concept that lies at the heart of many unexplained phenomena. This is not merely memory, it is a visceral echo, a psychic wound that continues to resonate through time. The dried blood that seems to reappear on ancient stones, the creaking of floorboards that mimic past panic, the shadows that hold a palpable sense of despair. These are the physical manifestations of this lingering trauma. It is as if the very essence of past suffering refuses to dissipate, instead finding new ways to make its presence known. A chilling reminder that the past is never truly buried, and its specter can haunt the present with a terrifying, tangible grip. A truth that binds us to the echoes of those who have suffered before us. A truth that can be felt in the deepest, darkest parts of our being. The persistent whisper of the unknown, the insidious suggestion that there is more to reality than meets the eye, is a powerful force that can erode even the most rational mind. It preys on our inherent curiosity, our desire to understand the inexplicable, and our fear of what we cannot control. The cracked mirrors that offer distorted glimpses of truth, the cold ashes that symbolize finality yet hint at lingering presence, the ever-watchful eyes of crows. These are the symbols that remind us of the fragile boundary between the known and the unknowable. They serve as constant, unsettling reminders that beneath the surface of our ordered world lies a turbulent ocean of mystery, populated by forces that defy our comprehension, forces that are always listening, always waiting for the moment when our guard drops, when our skepticism falters, and when we are finally ready to truly hear the whispers from beyond, the whispers that promise revelation but deliver only terror, a terrifying truth that can leave one forever questioning the reality they thought they knew, forever bound to the darkness that resides just beyond the edge of sight, a darkness that whispers secrets that should never have been told. The chilling realization that the tales we dismiss as mere fiction are, in fact, echoes of tangible, terrifying realities, is a truth that the cautious observer actively resists. Yet, the persistent, almost ritualistic recurrence of certain motifs, the shadowy figure at the periphery, the disembodied voice that speaks with chilling clarity, the oppressive sense of being watched, suggests a universal grammar of fear, a language spoken by entities that exist beyond our current understanding. These recurring elements are not coincidental. They are the breadcrumbs left by intelligences that operate on principles alien to our own. Intelligences that perhaps find a grim amusement in observing our attempts to rationalize the irrational. The dried blood on forgotten altars, the creaking of phantom doors, the unnerving silence that precedes a terrifying manifestation. These are not merely elements of storytelling. They are the tangible evidence of a reality that presses against our own. A reality that whispers secrets that should never have been told. A truth that leaves us forever looking over our shoulders, forever aware of the unseen, forever changed.